And
B is the shallow,
and I'm C.
and C is the deep metaphor. Okay. So how we begin is A is going to present her present state and desired state.
Okay, present state is I'm blushing far too easily, especially when somebody criticizes me. And the desired state would be thinking instead of blushing.
So
I'm just going to,
yeah.
each step I'm going to mark out. So
Sure.
now they're going to ask a few questions to help elicit, step B, or step 2 there, to help elicit a little more information about the present state and desired state. Okay.
So what happens? So someone criticizes you, and then what happens? Then you blush.
Yeah.
What kind of internal state do you have?
I feel scared and ashamed. More scared. Yeah.
What happens next?
What happens next? I get angry at myself for blushing.
So what they're doing now is they're asking her to step into it, right? Mm-hmm. So they can get her to associate, then they can get the physiology, because that's what they're looking for, the nonverbal gestures, as well as clarification. They're trying to get both. So without an association into the experience, you can't get the nonverbal gestures. If she's only talking about it, right, from a dissociated place, you probably won't see anything. So that's why they're asking her to be in it.
And what is the result of that? When you get angry at yourself, then what happens?
It's getting worse. I mean, I'm getting redder.
Okay. And what happens to your thinking?
There's just the kind of circle, thinking, oh my god, I'm blushing. I shouldn't be blushing. That makes it worse. Oh my god, I'm even redder now. Yeah.
Getting some of the gestures?
Mm-hmm.
Any more questions?
So that's about the desired state. What would you like to have happen instead?
Well, I would be like, I would rather be calm and have my brain working instead of circling.
Mm-hmm. You would have this and this.
Yeah.
Okay.
So take a moment to imagine stepping into that fully. So you really want to get that state access so you can see it. And then tell us a little bit about what it's like from that place.
Well, it's cooler in the face. It's clearer in the head. I'm more outside than inside. So I'm more able to get information from the outside rather than dealing with what's going on the inside.
So her attention's more outside of herself than on her internal state.
Any questions? I think I've got that pretty well.
Yeah.
Good. So that's really all you need. You need some basic differences between the present state and the desired state, looking for some physiological differences so you can see that both in her posture as well as in her words, how it's different. So you really want her to do her best to access both of them so you can really see it. Okay? Now, A leaves the group. And B and C now start to explore the content areas that they're going to use.
We don't get to talk about it though. We just.
Well, just so you don't have the same content area. That's the main thing, that the content areas are going to be different.
All right, so I'm thinking for shallow, I'm thinking about some kind of game that she plays, perhaps like in a sandbox, invites her friends in to play. Because what we're looking at here is, as I understand it, is
Can you hear this?
permission. So she's giving people permission to criticize her, and so we're going to work with the idea that it's her choice to give permission to do that or not.
Okay, so I'm going to, for the demonstration purpose,
Just.
Just the content
Just the
area.
content, not-
Because once you start to come up with your metaphor, you can do that on your own.
Okay, great.
So I want each
So,
person
sandbox.
to take their time to come up with their own metaphor.
Sandbox,
I'm
right?
going to talk about a tree.
Great.
Great. So the content areas are different, and you both have a sense of the gestures.
Right.
A little bit.
That you're
I
gonna
didn't
use.
pick up on those as much as I could have.
Okay. So if you feel like you don't have enough, you could ask your partner, did
Yeah.
you get
Yeah,
those
what-
clear?
What did you notice?
Well, what I noticed was in the position that she was
Present state?
present state, that it was kind of down talking about it until the criticism happened, then it was back like
Oh, really?
this.
Okay.
And that she wanted to be, things were happening too fast.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Right,
Yeah.
and that she wanted to be here in the desired state. Things were clearer and she could be more out there rather than here.
I noticed her breathing change when she went into the
She actually did
desired
turn a little
state.
red too.
Yeah, I didn't notice that as much, but her breathing kind of relaxed. It's like her body kind of relaxed back a little bit
Yeah.
when she got into the
agree.
desired state.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to make a comment here. You're looking for the things that you can actually reproduce. So you probably can't reproduce the skin color changes unless you're that talented that you can access that in yourself. If you can't do that, use the ones that you can see, the ones that you can do. Okay? All right, so all of this just took about, 5 minutes so far? Something like that. Now they're going to take 5 minutes or so to come up with their metaphors.
Should we go off somewhere and just think about
You can go off, or you can just sit together and just do it. You might have another A come over and sit down and just kind of watch your process, what you're doing. And if you want to use that other A and go, maybe there's an ecological concern with this, you could tell them a little bit about what you're working on, and they might be able to bounce back to you. Yeah, that sounds like that might be a problem. So this is the time to really think about the metaphor, think about the messages you're delivering, and what the ecological impacts of it are going to be. Okay?
Good.
Once you've got that handled, you can use the other A for that, or you can use each other for that, just to kind of double check. Then we go on to the delivery. So B starts. So you can take a minute to ask your person A to relax and just be open to listening to the metaphor.
Would you like to hear a story?
Yes, please.
All right. Once upon a time, there was a child who was playing in the sandbox and having a great time, really enjoying themselves, and making up games. And these games were just fun games that this child could play in the sandbox. And by and by, a couple of this child's friends came on board, came to the sandbox, and asked if they could join in. And the first child said, absolutely. Come on, jump in. So they did, and they made up their games together, and they had fun. And the first child showed the other two children how to play the game. They had a wonderful time. And then, after a time, they were just having just a really good time. A stranger came in. And this stranger looked at them and just said, can I play? I'll show you how to play the game better. And the three other children looked up and they really didn't know what to think. And after a moment, they just turned around and started laughing and had a great time.
Yeah, I need a little bit to process, but
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, so one thing to note is that if your person A has their eyes closed, your gestures are not going to be noticed visually, but that doesn't mean that they can't hear in your tone when you're shifting your physiology.
It made a big difference.
So it's still important to do those shifts even if their eyes are closed. It still can be effective. So that metaphor may have been a little deeper than shallow, because it took Birgit, maybe even now she still hasn't quite gotten it.
Oh, well, I think I'm getting it sooner or later.
So I'm not suggesting that your shallow metaphor will be perfect and that they'll get it right away. That's fine.
Or that the deep one.
You're just trying to practice with this. Just playing around with it. Okay. So now we're ready for the deep metaphor.
Okay. So I'd like to tell you a story about a fruit tree. And this fruit tree started out very young and small, not a very big trunk, and not very many roots. And when the wind would come along, it would get jostled around quite a bit. And then it got a little bit older, but it was still kind of small, and it had its first year of bearing fruit. That first year of bearing fruit, it didn't create very good fruit. The fruit was sort of bitter, some of it rotted, got infested by insects. And then the tree continued to get older, and it realized that by growing more roots, it could be more and more stable. And it realized that it could reach up more and more and more to the sky and have more of touching the sky up there. And it continued to bear fruit, and sometimes it would still bear fruit that was rotten, and sometimes it would still bear fruit that had insects living in it. It would also produce fruit that was really sweet and juicy. And it loved all of its fruit because it understood that that was just the way of being a fruit tree, was to produce all kinds of fruit. And it also knew that when the wind came along, that it could sway with the wind and not be scared of the wind. It could just sort of ebb and flow with the wind, and it knew that it had plenty of roots. It was so tied into the ground, it was very solid. And it would just sway with the wind, and then it would come to stillness again.
Just giving her a minute to let that settle. And then the final step is the feedback session. Them noticing any nonverbal shifts and sort of talking about that just for a few minutes, briefly, minute maybe. So if you noticed anything while you were telling, and if you noticed anything.
I noticed that you got quite relaxed very quickly. So the idea of the story really worked in that manner. And that that when you opened your eyes, that you were looking for maybe how it affected you, searching for it. Is that possible? Is this resonating?
It's enough. Just a little bit.
To be honest, I wasn't paying a lot of conscious attention to what you're doing, but I got the sense that something in my story was resonating with you in some sort of way. There's something like maybe your face was softening, the muscles in your face were softening, or the way you're holding your shoulders, something like that. It was like they were relaxing.
So I want you to notice in both of their demonstrations of offering this feedback is that neither of them assumed that they knew what was happening. And you listen in both of their languages, they were checking. This is what I think I saw. And they were kind of asking her to confirm or to say, no, that's not what was happening. Yet they were both open to that feedback. But they were just trying to express what they thought they saw. That's kind of what you're going to be doing. And then Birgit can respond.
Yeah, I enjoyed the content of your story very much, with the idea of children playing and all that, so this was kind of a nice image I had. The ending was unexpected, so kind of abrupt. I was like, what? That's the end? So that's when I came back and I was like, okay. So it took me a little bit to get what you were I guess what you're trying to say with it, so I need it.
Do you think that you got it?
Yes, I think so.
So
Yeah.
say to him what you think you got.
What was the story again? Oh,
Children in the sand.